Welcome back to the most professional Starcraft 2, with the former world champion Zerg in the red, the Executioner. It's Rogue, facing off against the much more relatable Terran in the blue, the People's Terran from Team Liquid. It's Cure, in a best-of-3 Terran versus Zerg showdown, between two players who live by the philosophy that quantity has a quality all its own. And speaking of, it'd be awesome if you could smash that like button, and maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm, and Jimmy, what do we have? Really? 1,700 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than the very first Zerglings as the Reaper comes in to poke and prod and Cure with the cheeky SCV to block any thought of a third base early on. The Terran's finding a way to make even the SCV an annoying part of the early game for the Zerg. But the Queen pops out and politely and very firmly drives the Reaper away for now. But I'm sure it'll be loitering just outside for a while yet. At least until, oh, well, Queen ambles, stoically marches her way down, but bounced out of the way. The Reaper, widely considered to be a very rude move, but that's never stopped the Terrans before. Ooh, slips the drone in right behind, and the Reaper not quite there to body block it. The Zerglings will slip back to the creep. The Queen will not, as the grenade continues to bounce it away, but Zergling speed actually was canceled by Rogue. Interesting. Well, on seeing it's not going to be a mass Reaper play and being able to get that third, Rogue cancels the Zergling speed, which means he may have more technologically inclined intentions than putting some vestigial wings on the back of his Zerglings. He really should at least be able to jump up cliffs. Let's be honest here. But an evolution chamber is on the way. I'm very surprised we don't have a lair. The timing of the third base, I mean, Rogue got the guess. When you cancel an upgrade, you get all the money back. All right? Right. It doesn't matter if it's 1% or 99% done. Also, fun fact, Jimmy, write this down for another video. If you destroy a building with an upgrade researching, they get the money back. All right? Automatic rebate. Which, I mean, remember to mail in your rebates. Remember that was the thing? And if you do, how's the back pay? I'm on top of that. Roachhorn is on the way. +1 Carapace behind it. It's going to be a more brawny sort of Zerg. I'm sticking by it. As attempting to box out Cure and get a massive economy. I'm still not sure if it was worth delaying / canceling the Zergling speed outright, as he didn't. Now, it's 100 minerals to get Zergling speed as well. And it might seem like nickel and diming it, but with the Queens costing 25 more, everything just, well, in this economy, you need every mineral you can get. Lair's halfway there. Banshees with Cloak on the way. An old build, but it certainly checks out. Hellion Banshee has been a staple of Terran versus Zerg for time immemorial, and by that I mean over 15 years. The ability to keep control of the ground with Hellions, and if they make roaches, you have Banshees. Now, the Hellions and Reapers, especially in Legacy of the Void, can always be at the edge of the creep, taking a look, maybe poking and lighting up one of those creep tumors, threatening a run-by or a drive-by, and sometimes actually following through with it. I'll see the Hellions, Queens, a drone already headed to the 4th. And now headed to the unit's lost tab. Double engineering bay behind this for Cure. Not going to be sticking odd sort of bulbous wall there, but I'm not here to judge. That's a lie. I'm definitely here to judge. We'll see how it works out for him. 4 more racks on the way as Cure shifts dramatically into mass production from the more technologically oriented Banshees. But a couple cloaked Banshees, Spore Crawlers are there. Rogue did not forget his detection, and an Overseer. I doubt it'll be the last overhead. Infestation Pit is already on the way, rushing towards the hive. The Roaches will deny the entry of the Hellions any further into the base. The Queens will let the Banshees know about the restricted lair space around the main. And so far, Rogue has managed to get to 72 drones, effectively untouched. A couple drones incinerated, but that's really the cost of doing business. So far, if you're rogue in this scenario, I imagine you're pretty happy with the situation. And now you're markedly less happy as the Hellions come in, charbroiling another 4 drones. I think at this point, you're realizing these Hellions have an expiration date. So trying to get as much damage done as possible. The total is 6 drones. Not great. Not terrible. But, certainly... Now, usually you keep the Hellions alive to combine them with a Marine tank push. And possibly, turn them into Hellbats as part of the push. Against roaches, that's optimistic at best. You're not going to get too much done. And Cure, gambling on the run-by, doesn't find much. But now he's got the double drop. He's got a bunch of Marines with Stim. He's going to knock out some of the Overlords, continue to push back the creep, and as always, the big struggle here on Persephone is actually getting anything past your first 4 bases. Your first 4 bases, nice, comfortable distance away from the Terran. But every base past that is literally going towards theirs. And that makes it that much easier for the Terran army to get into position. And it's a lot harder to get them out of it. 1-1 is now completed for Cure. He's going to have the upgrade lead overall, but it's going to be about unit composition. Rogue has a Lurker done halfway done. A Contaminate, a tactical goop to delay production for like 20 seconds on one of the siege tanks. But in StarCraft, every second counts. We have a timer right there. Marines keeping control of the creep on the left flank. Another double drop loaded out on the right. Far too dangerous to walk when you could fly. Somebody should tell the queens that. 3 Vipers on the way. That Lurker den completing. Rogue 82 drones. It's about where you want to be as a Zerg player. If he could just deny the 4th base from Cure, well, he's got a clear win condition then, but where did the Spore Crawler go? Brenda, where did you put the Spore? I thought we could move it outside. Why would you think that? Sorry. Down goes a medevac, though. 11 drones to the Banshees, as they're always lurking and looking for an opportunity. Gonna get 16 drone kills. Just keeping the Banshees alive has paid dividends for Cure, getting so much more damage done than he's been able to do with anything else on the map. Finally, the Banshee sinking into the river after the Queens are finally able to ping cushion it from the main. But Cure just made up for a lot of lost ground. 16 drones is not a critical hit to the economy when you're already pushing triple digits, but it certainly slows things down. And it's about larva management, okay? It's about Rogue has to spend his larva, and his queens were running around all across the map going crazy about those Banshees. That means less injects, less larva, less ability to produce units regularly. On top of the fact that now, Cure bought himself enough space to get into position, but those Vipers are an existential threat. Blinding Cloud could be devastating. Parasitic Bomb is always helpful. But here comes the Roach Hydra. Blinding Cloud on the Marines forces them forward automatically. If you don't micro them manually, they will just run through the cloud, sometimes into the Lurker spines, very bravely and very dumbly. It's a fine line. The siege tanks, though, that forward base, getting pummeled. And yanks in a couple. Get over here! Siege tanks taken down, but the hatchery as well in turn. Zoning out the Vipers for now. The Lurkers eviscerating some of the Marines that get a bit too ambitious. But, Cure is more than willing to sacrifice many of the Marines for the greater good. I've never seen anyone lose more Marines, arguably unneededly, than Cure. Unlike his, 4-letter teammate, Clem. And also, Mana. I'm trying to make, like, a Cure Clem. Moving on! Alright, it wasn't gonna happen. Just like that base down the center again. Cure just rotates around and he slams the base of the siege tanks, cuts off some of the army. And if Rogue is unable to change the equation soon, he's not going to be able to solve it at all. The Lurkers are just heading across the map. 9 Lurkers, but the siege tanks are still in position. Over half of the Zerg army is going across the map, though. Cure has no idea this is coming, doesn't have a sensor tower, doesn't have nothing besides a few ghosts, lines up the shots. reacts quickly, but that's far too much to deal with what he has now. He has to come back home because so much of his army supply was committed on the other side of the map. Planetary Fortress at the 4th base alongside 3 more command centers being developed in the subdivision currently under fire. Lines up some shots with the Ghost. The Lurker's not in position to really deal with it. Rogue will be losing some of those valuable Lurkers, but he's buying something even more valuable. Time. Well, Rogue takes the pressure off for now, but Cure has done a great job of clearing up the creep. And Hydra just blasted back. We keep physics on extreme, of course. 3 X's. Metaphorically. Well, Rogue now realizing maybe he should have got Zergling speed at some point after he's building a few dozen more Lings. Yeah, a bit of an oversight there, but speaking of, 4 more Overseers on the way. The committee is coming together. Rogue's trademark strategy, the mass changeling FPS and mental health drop, where there are so many changelings you don't know what's real anymore. But, of course, many times you're asking yourself whether or not you could, rather than whether you should, with those sort of strategies. But the Nydus Worm, or the Nydus Network, rather, in plain view, that's never stopped him before, but the siege tanks are closing in, and now using this as a stepping stone into the main base. A staging area with the siege tanks. Rogue gonna try to hit the other side. Viper's coming in. Blinding Cloud, mediocre, drags in some of the tanks. And just slices right through them, and without the tanks to hold it down, the Lurkers are easily able to hold the line. And the Knight is off to the right flank. Cure with a... He just has a bunch of ghosts and medevacs. Special operatives, right? They get special treatment, if you know what I mean. Dedicated medevacs. And at this stage of the game, another... Wait, did he lose the first Nydus Network? No, that's a second one. All right, we've had first Nydus Network, but have we had second Nydus Network? And Cure going into a more bio-curious build as a mech getting added into the composition, mixing things up, a bit of variety, as variety is the spice of life, and the spice must flow. Nydus on the left, Nydus on the right, and the Terran stuck in the middle. Not exactly what Cure wanted, but it's what he has right now. Unable to break out of the Lurkers. Didn't put so much pressure on Rogue that he really cut into the army supply, and the firing line is good. Some of the ghosts getting cut down. Of course, Lurker range and burrow speed are done. The siege tank's doing a lot of damage. And so getting pulled out in turn, even gets a medevac in there, just whatever he could hover over. 11 SCVs dead. Nydus in the main base. The defense team is there, fighting through the alleyways of the base, gonna take this one down. But Rogue says, well, 2 can play at this game. That's usually the mode we favor. And he's going to use the low ground with the Lurkers as a staging area for a siege into the main. Great idea, I'll take it. And now the Nydus being protected by the Lurkers. This is not going as well as it did for Cure. The Overseers overhead just trying to absorb some of the snipes. Drops out another legion of changelings, but he's going to be losing many of the other units here. The changelings just kind of getting in the way of things, which is most of their purpose. Meanwhile, some Hydras coming through the Nydus, which drops into the main. Do the hokey pokey and drop them all about on it. The changelings will spot the siege tanks, and at a glance, Cure doesn't see the little changeling bar. He can kind of guess which ones are changelings, and of course you can click on them. But he may think at a glance he has way more Marines than he does. So, you want a piece of meat, boys? I hate these changelings. They're always so weird. The changelings getting real personal with that Marauder. But it's just providing constant vision for Rogue, giving him an idea of where Cure is going. And even a couple seconds out of position is enough for the Lurkers to jam their faces down and start slicing through. The main base, I don't know if those siege tanks are stuck or they just like it here. I think a bit of both. Meanwhile, though, a few Lurkers slipping in the right. There's no high-sec auto-tracking, no building armor to make those planetaries a bit more of a thorny nut to crack. The Overseer count has kind of casually climbed to 15. He has only lost 2 of them so far. Rogue he's got 99 drones. And Rogue is starting to bank a lot of money. Cure, I don't really know what happened. It seemed like he had a great attack timing. He put on a lot of pressure, and Rogue just wriggled out of it. As he slaps Nydus Worms down, he's building more Overlords. And it's not like he's supply blocked. The thing about Overseers, they are the supply. There's no limit except the resources on the map. And technically, the frame rate of your computer. But I think nowadays, we've graduated past Pentium 4. It's not such a huge concern, as these players are probably on advanced potato graphics. Most pros don't play on that nowadays, but some combination. Rogue has the gold base at the 3 o'clock as well. So Cure has been boxed into something resembling a corner, as Rogue's onslaught has kept him at bay. The thing is, Cure has been, I was going to say, so much more cost-effective. But I don't think I can say that. I can say much more cost-effective. 3,000 gas more effective, but there hasn't been a huge commitment of the armies. The Lurkers, though, deciding to prove me wrong immediately. Or not. Slicing through, the Queens caught out in front. Cure going for something of a base trade here. Rogue decides to split off just a couple Lurkers and bring everything else back as Cure rotates around again. Round and round we go. Slices down the base at the front. And Cure just pummels another hatchery and gonna get a second for free. A special deal today. Meanwhile, another ghost bio drop. Gonna find some damage. And 25 drones dead. As Rogue plummets to a 21 worker lead. 2 Spires on the way. Clearly working towards Broodlord. No, Broodlords. There's Lurkers in the bottom right. Lurkers down the center. Lurkers on Rogue's side of the map. The Overseer's gonna be popped out of the sky. The Nydus networks may be disconnected, but that's so many Banelings rolling in for the first time, making a cameo appearance. Trying to crush through, but the siege tank spread is so good, I can't believe it's not butter. Hydra's lunge forward. The Overseer's trying to obscure everything, and I think being mostly successful as Rogue just... Well, obviously there's some detection here. Picks up into the medevacs, tucks in, and runs away. Cure loses... Well, there's a Nydus in the main blocking out some of the siege tank. Didn't take out the hatchery over to the right flank. That drop comes back around the Queen, desperate to inject this hatchery and do nothing else with her life. I mean, if you're into that. Meanwhile, gets away probably because of the speed zones on the highway to the right side. But Rogue, well, the Nydus in the main base. If there were a few Lurkers ready to pop out there, that could have been devastating. So many games have been decided by whether or not the Lurker Nydus gets through. 14 more Lurkers on the way, 20 more Banelings. Rogue has maintained the gold base, and everything is morphing here. We've got Baneling cocoons, we've got Lurker cocoons. A beautiful butterfly will probably not emerge. Something disgusting yet effective. Check out my OnlyFans for more. Like and subscribe. The Nydus in the main. The Changelings giving Cure a false sense of security. The mech unit's coming out. The Healing Shrine helping as well. Down goes a Viper. The Nydus taken out at the last moment. The Ghost, somehow no Overseer. You gotta leave a couple behind. Oh no, the Lurkers are abandoned and just gunned down one by one. The Ghosts line up their shots and the entire line of Lurkers. Oh no, it's a disaster. Another Nydus network is on the way. Make that 3. Again, the Changelings. The Banelings as well. He has building armor. He actually didn't get high-sec auto-tracking. Building armor not so great against Banelings, as there's nothing that counters such a strong base as so much acid. 11 Nydus Worms, but he abandoned the tanks at the front. The Changelings see everything. Rogue knows the map is dark and full of Terrans. Now finally getting Burrow. Lurkers eviscerating everything that gets close. Cure really starting to get boxed in here. And the fact that Rogue has been able to reliably mine from the gold base for any amount of time is a huge deal. That is the only contested base in the map. Not all maps even have one of these bases. But this is an entire extra base on top of the symmetrical even ones. So, a bit of an odd situation. Another Nydus Worm over to the left side. More worms than RFK's brain right now. Is 15 more Banelings on the way. Overseers overhead. Not just for detection. 1, to flex, and 2, I do truly think it is to make it harder to snipe the lurkers underneath. Though not making too much effort on that. Another base, but the SCVs! Big job, huh? Woo, overtime! Two brothers. Repairing. After everyone else was murdered. Bob Wick. Meanwhile, Cure once again slicing through towards the main. These two bases that have constantly been pummeled by Cure, but this time, Rogue gonna try to defend them. The Banelings rolling through, but the Ghosts. The army is mostly Ghosts right now. 18 Ghosts in the mix. Only a bit of bio underneath. There's more supply in Ghosts than everything else. But Cure can't seem to find the antidote to this situation. He's at 169 supply against 200 of Rogue, and Rogue is still banking money. I mean, not that much money. As his Vespine gas is looking quite thin right now, but he's got plenty of minerals, and the Zerglings are still finding value. +3 melee attack is finally on the way. I don't know if he remembered the 2 spires he built what seems like an age ago. Thing is, though, you might say, Cure's at 178 supply. He's actually below the changelings dying off. He has 150 army supply. This is why Rogue is struggling so much to actually crack the army. Because with the Ghosts, which are actually remarkably effective at just auto-attacking against Zerglings, Banelings, and Hydras. Almost better than sniping, but sniping is a lot safer, obviously. They're a very strong unit. Just full stop. But especially against this composition. I thought he was attacking as Overseers. The rocks finally being taken down. But apparently too hard. What? You just stopped? Can't just leave it 90% of the way there. That's how you get your rocks off. Jimmy, just edit most of it. Rogue has almost mined out the gold. That is almost unprecedented in a game that isn't already over on this map. I don't know if I've ever seen a Zerg player successful. A Hellbat is trapped in by changelings. Much like your mother, it's known for a very large hitbox. Alright. The lurkers. Well, the orbital command lifts 172 Terran army supply. And Rogue does not have much gas at all. Possibly because he has 83 Banelings. What are you doing? Well, that's where all the gas went. 83 Banelings, 76 Zerglings, plenty of changelings, more lings than your body can handle. We'll see if Cure has what it takes to do so. But Rogue... Well, is it time? He wants to deny at least this front base from Cure. The 176 army supply, 23 ghosts. But here we go. So many Banelings rolling through. The siege tanks are nothing. They can't see. They can't shoot. The Overseers overhead making it almost impossible. The splash damage is gone. The Zerg is rolling like a tide through absolutely everything. The destructible rocks are taken down incidentally. And, well, Rogue does not win the game. He refills for another round. In this sort of roguelike maneuver, 28 Hydras, 36 Zerglings, and he's out of larva. He's somehow down to no larva. He still has minerals, which is good. Gas would be better. There's still a almost entirely, if not entirely, untouched base in the bottom left corner. Cure has not really been able to mine from the bottom right, but it feels like Rogue is just drowning him right now. Smothering him under the weight of Zerg. Cure tactically did everything he was supposed to do. He denied the bases, but he just... Rogue's... That's why he's the executioner. When he commits to something, he commits all the way. And it was that level of commitment that has kept Cure at bay for long enough for Rogue to possibly take this game away. We'll have to see if Cure still has a say. Because right now, 121 supply is not looking great. That's more changelings than Marines in there. He's body blocking him in, holding him down, and melting through. Now the changelings are getting in the way of the Banelings, but, you know, too many cooks. 200 to 100 supply. The numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for Cure right now. And you add 30 more Zerglings to the mix? Rogue has... He's trying to deal with it. The Hellbats are helpful. Splat. Jacked up and good to go. The changelings finally exterminated. But the overseers... We've seen a dozen Nydus Worms. Unfortunately, changelings don't show up in the units lost tab. I'm pretty sure even the units lost here with 944, which includes 548 Zerglings, 125 Banelings that died before attacking, 50 Lurkers, through all the fire and fury. Rogue consuming the map, and Cure just, without the tenacity, without the resources, without the motivation to really strike back, feels like even when Cure was putting the pressure on, Rogue had a plan. And now Cure's plan is to hope that somehow Rogue mines out, but that's not going to happen. That is absolutely... Like, Rogue still has two bases to mine from. This one is pretty much entirely fresh, partially thanks to Cure taking it out multiple times. One last dance. How many Banelings is that? 70 Banelings. Rogue with a very old yet effective style of Zerg. The wave defense, the siege tanks at the back, the changelings trying to lock everything in, the blinding clouds are far too much. The mass ghost still trying to hold. He remembered he had Hydra Lunge. That was like the second one of the game. And 2 Gs as well. Rogue consumes the map to claim game number 1. He lost 14,000 more resources, 600 more units. But it seemed inevitable. Well. Some days, I can see why Rogue could be considered as, Did he change his portrait? Wow. No. There's no way. So, Rogue, you're just going to have to take my word for it, because I'm too lazy to have Jimmy set it up again. But Rogue had a Maru portrait in Game 1. One of Maru's WCS portraits. Rogue has used the Maru portrait since he beat him in GSL like 7 years ago. Which is pretty hardcore. And that was a bit embarrassing for Maru, how badly he got beaten. And then I believe Rogue just said Zerg was OP. But I think he changed to another Maru portrait before the second game in the series. I'm like 95% sure. What a power move. Because there's several out there, because they used to actually care about this game, remember? Like and subscribe for nostalgia and dreams and existential dread. And moving on, there are 2 barracks out on the map. I'm sorry. That's technically true. But now. But wait. There's more! A third barracks has joined the chat. But it's just kind of sitting there on Do Not Disturb and is not participating. Because the point of this is that the first 2 racks get scouted. And the response to 2 racks is pull the drones. But the third racks, the extra dimension, if you would, that third Marine can make the difference. Or third set of Marines. So this is a half-truth situation, I guess. But Rogue only scouted 1 racks. Now, if he really wants to sell it, he doesn't send the third SCV until later. Like, he just makes this look... It's just a straight-up bunker rush for now, but... Yeah, the drones are pulled off the line. He sees 2 SCVs. Will he change his tune when he sees a third one? Rogue sees it. That third SCV tells him exactly what's happening. Well, he's already here. He's going to try to zone him out. There's a spine crawler on the way. If that spine crawler completes, this series could be very short. Well, that game was like 30 minutes, but over very shortly. The bunker! But the creep has oozed forward. And every centimeter it gets out there is another one that makes it more difficult. Zerglings, he's committed to the drone pull. So much, that's like 2/3 of Rogue's economy off the line right now. And the Marines are doing so much damage. Oh, wow. The Marine micro is great. The SCVs making things even more difficult. The drone, even the SCV. Wait. The bunker? There's like 3 or 4 battle drones, predator drones, that had the taste of Terran in their weird jaws, and yet survived to tell the tale. Something like that. Rogue. Okay. So now we go to this situation. Honestly, I love these situations. This makes it way more interesting than watching the same 6 minutes over and over and over again. But I'll survive those 6 minutes so we can get the next 16 in those matches. But this is when things get weird. Now, both players have an idea of exactly what situation the other is in. But this isn't your cookie cutter. Like, Cure likely doesn't know exactly how many drones he killed. Rogue can't know how many, how many Marines that Cure committed to. So, he didn't see the barracks lifting back, correct? Yeah, he has not seen the barracks lifting back. Cure could still just be making... We can't let the Zerglings in. Well, that kind of ruins my whole... I was really getting all analytical. All right, Winter, please explain the strategies instead of just impersonating queens. It's not impersonating if they're people. Wait, queens aren't people. How dare you? You see what you've done. Because right now, Rogue has seen what Cure has done because Cure let the Zerglings in the base. I know they're cute. But you can't... That is... I mean, there's a lot of rules. I was about to say there's one rule. There's like 75 rules. And that's just the first 3 minutes of the game in Starcraft 2. But one of the most important ones is don't let the Zerglings in your base. David Kim gave you a wall. All right? Use it. That informational coup that Rogue just got, I think, tilts the game in his favor. The fact that he now knows there's a command center on the way. Wait, did he see the second? Okay, he saw the third CC. You can just go. You can build drones. Because there was the ambiguity before. He didn't know for sure that he was expanding. He would have come up the ramp. He would have seen another command center. But he doesn't know how many Marines are on the map. He doesn't know if he's teching up behind. The third command center gives it all away. So now Cure is gonna make a bunch of dudes with drugs, guns, and possibly justified at this point hatred of illegal aliens. But makes me feel ready though. Rogue knows it too. That's the problem. Now, that doesn't mean it's easy. Because even if, as Beyond has proven, even if you know exactly the timing the Marines are moving out, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to handle it perfectly. As arguably, I don't think it's a very complicated argument, but possibly the most microable unit in the entire game. The Marines are fanning out. How many are there? 31 Marines. So this is just stage 2 of the Marine all-in. Baneling nest is now completed. The spine crawler moving into position. +1 carapace is halfway there. The Marines, combat shields online. Factory's only halfway done. No medics in sight. The spine crawler shut down. And now I think Kira has to do his best Clem impression. Or, well, I was gonna say micro against the Banelings, but he might just go home. If this was Clem in this scenario, I would say the Banelings are a joke. Because when Clem's involved, they sure look like it. But, Kira, this is your moment! You've got one shot! You've got one opportunity! Oh, he's got a lot of shots. They don't run out of ammo. Yeah, apparently you can just stutter step back and that's fine. Just... if he stims again, he's gonna be one Baneling away from death on those Marines. Medevacs are a long way off. He's just now finishing the starport. Yeah, that's Kira. That's the difference between Kira and Clem. There's a 900% chance that Clem would have gone for it. Like, stutter step and come at me, bro. Either I hit the Banelings or I don't. And he usually hits. Kira, being the people's Terran, has a more realistic interpretation or estimation of his capabilities. He says, I probably can't target all the Banes, but I can stutter step pretty well. Rogue, again, a much smaller yet very similar. He drags the attention and some of the army back to the Zergling counter. But look at Rogue's economy. He only has 49 drones. Rogue is actually all in, though Kira doesn't know it. He's going all in with Baneling speed. Because it's so hard to gauge a Terran economy. He wants to crush the Marines, and if he can do so, he can just win the game. But this is actually very hard to pull off reliably. But Rogue, the Executioner, has one slice of the axe. And either he guillotines Cure, and Cure picked up, this is not where you want to be right now. 2 medevacs in purgatory, dropping out mid-fight. It's just a bunch of Marines. Cure. Oh, no, it's a disaster. Rogue's getting burrow. Oh, yeah. So even if there's any warning, he had almost 0 seconds of warning, but this is why Ling Bane is not the end goal. 97.4 repeating, of course, % of the time. But burrowed Banelings? That goes from a gamble to the lottery, which is just like advanced gambling. Because with gambling, at least you can pretend you're going to win. And with the lottery, it's more like a prayer. But, well, Cure is not going to be quick to scan. He's going to get one shot. Again. With the burrowed Banes. Gonna try to drag it back. Cure is halfway across the map with his army yet again. The Banelings are actually rolling. Okay, wait a second. He just left the Lings and Banes in. Cure's doing a... what? Cure's falling apart back at home. He's gonna lose so many SCVs. And this just went from a desperate scenario for Rogue. Cure's just having a breakdown. It's just not going well. He lost so much. Oh, I was really hyping up the burrowed Banes, but... The Queen's Moot has get... He just died! What? Cure, how dare you? Just get the Zerglings in his base and kill all his SCVs. Why don't you do that? Well, actually, Rogue just rolls over him. Let's be honest here. Not Cure's best day, but Rogue taking full advantage with no mercy. And that brings us to our anti-spoiler bonus game in a fashion that Cure. The People's Terran. If you've watched the second channel and seen my coaching, you'll know that we have some Terran players. By the way, Tasia versus Classic, Starcraft Evolution, highlight game, Brood War Terran versus Protoss. That's what's going to be happening in the... But you'll know that there are some Terran players out there who, just the existence of insert strategy or race here, or both, well, they must be ahead because they're Zerg, or Protoss, or they cannon rushed, or they have Banelings. That mindset is prevalent and most pronounced with the Terrans. Cure, the People's Terran, ever since, not just because of his strategies, but also because when he beat Dark and Solar and GSL a few years ago, which at the time, Dark and Solar were heavily favored against him. Cure was like ranked 12, and they were both in the top 5. And asked why he thinks he did so well against them, like what he did to practice. And he just said, it's because Zerg players are lazy and don't practice enough. And from that day forth, on top of, you know, his strategies and all that, he became the People's Terran. The true representation that Terran deserves. Speaking of, Tasia here, part of the Starcraft Evo mod that you probably have seen some videos on lately, combining the Starcraft 1 races up against their Starcraft 2 counterparts. I love all the updates to the models, that really gritty, old school, oh, what was that? Terran look especially. We don't get to see. So you can also play StarCraft 1 versus StarCraft 1, which I actually really like. Because you get all the sounds and the feel, and you don't have to get carpal tunnel just reminding your workers that they need to mine things. But, yeah, the mineral patches are actually slightly different. But not just the look, but the mineral patches have somewhat more minerals in order to accommodate. The workers for StarCraft 1 accelerate quicker. They mine effectively slightly quicker. They don't actually do the mining quicker, but they move slightly quicker when they're going back to... Or maybe they mine quicker. Either way, it's to balance out mules and chrono boost and all that. But that's enough of that. And there's plenty of... That's one of them vulture bikes, Jimmy. It's a classic. That's a deep cut right there. Oh, that's a very shallow cut, actually. Get a Band-Aid. But I absolutely love it. I desperately hope. So, here's the reason why the videos before kind of stopped. Is because YouTube didn't show them to people. Like, what happened the last time we showed off StarCraft Evo was the first couple videos did amazing, and by like the third video, YouTube was showing them to half the people watching a generic other video. I really hope that doesn't happen this time. It's a great mod. In Korea, they are absolutely loving it. There's another... Not only was this from a $6,000 tournament, they're putting on a $15,000 tournament, which is a higher prize pool than GSL. I think right now, if you're watching this live, and by live, I mean within the first few days. I don't know why I said live. But my point being, it's amazing. Almost every, especially StarCraft 1 specific unit has custom models. And of course the sounds from Brood War, but the models are custom from creators. They're not just like from the campaign, but instead were created for the mod, just to be clear. There's still a few holdouts, but they've been slowly and surely adding things like the Vulture, which is apparently enough damage when combined with the basic Marines. Tasia going for early McDonald's play, the Vultures. with a charcuterie board of spider mines. A bit of cheese here, I feel. I'm not sure. Well, so spider mines do terrible, terrible damage to anything they can hit. But I've noticed that StarCraft 2 units have a tendency to be a lot smarter than their Brood War counterparts. And the spider mines are a lot easier to target down. Not like that, though. Classic eats a massive hit directly to the bandana of the Stalker. And the gateway wall is keeping the vultures out, but it's also being torn down by the mass vulture play. Just poking in. Adding in some more spider mines, cancels the gate, because why not at this point? He's trying to keep them out, but the spider mines might be getting in either way. Target's one down. The observer's out. I don't think there are any comm sets on the other side, so he can't scan it to deal with it, but the mines are at near point blank range. They have, what, 25 HP? He'll finally drive this back. But Classic loses a few probes. What's the total losses here? Honestly, this is one of my favorite parts. Things don't just end. Like, especially with the StarCraft 1 units, my favorite part of StarCraft 1 is how battles actually seem to go on for more than a few seconds. The damage and the mobility is not so front-loaded. Part of it is you can only select 12 units at a time, but you see some of it reflected. Oh no. Blanks out of the mine. It's not required to do so. Technically, you can target it down, but I think he move commanded so far it would have hit. Vulture so fast with that speed upgrade. Yeah, you see there? Just A moving is enough if there's nothing else to draw their fire. The Vulture siege tanks with siege mode on the way. In position now. Vultures without great damage to the Stalkers. I think they strip away the shields. Even the kind of damage spread of extra to shields. So you're just gonna go. There's no spider mines, just blinks on a tank. Spreads out to deal with it. And the tank's easily taken out. The Vultures? Well, the boys are pulled off the line. 60 HP SCVs. Blinking back with the Prism and with Blink itself. The SCV's taking a lot of damage, but once the shields are stripped away, the Vulture's barely scratching at the hull there. I know this for a fact. I looked it up when I was playing. They do 15 damage to shields, but only 5 to armored. So as soon as the shields are down, they do way less damage. Literally 3 times less. The Stalkers about to make the biggest mistake of what might be the end of their lives. Trying to drag out some spider mine hits with the immortal drop. But the mines enough to significantly discourage or maybe just shut down the blink in. He blinks up there. He won't be going anywhere but units lost. The immortal trying to drop right on top of the siege tank. Doesn't quite kill it off. A few Stalkers will finish it. 6 more SCVs dead. Vulture's trying to pick off some of the probes. Tasia barely able to sneak out. Oh, the Vultures! Killing those probes so quickly. There's a couple spider mines as well. And, oh! Tries to blink out. They actually re-burrow. Such a crazy behavior. Is that the Goliath range upgrade? Oh, there's no anti-air to deal with the War Prism. It's acting like it owns the place. And you know what? At this stage, it kind of does. There's nothing here to stop it. Storm is on the way for Classic. But the Goliaths are online. But terrestrially bound still makes it a bit of an issue here. Tasia at only 44 SCVs. That scan, guess just scanning for the gas, and comsats have no other purpose than scanning and detection. So, siege tanks and vultures. The vulture, 25 vultures. A few Goliaths mixed in, a few siege tank, or a few SCVs to repair. A War Prism coming in. Are we just gonna base trade? All right, then. Just snipes off a High Templar. Classic working on Storm, but he's not quite there yet. Stalker's not going to be able to do nearly as much damage as the entire Terran army. The Stalkers will be recalled back to the 3rd. The Vultures haven't laid down the mines. The siege tanks are in position, though. Things escalating incredibly quickly. The Immortal is dropped right on top of the tanks, but taken out immediately. The Stalkers being annihilated by the siege tanks with the Vultures to cover. Classic. Does he have charge? Yes, but doesn't, well, I think the Vultures are great against him. 19 SCVs dead. There were still a few Stalkers left behind, killing even more SCVs, but the army supply for Tasia is still very good. Storm? But how helpful is Storm against Vulture siege tank? Oh, we can get close enough, I guess it's good. Classic 56 probes. But the army supply is in favor of Tasia. The tanks racking up the kills. The spider mine zoning out. A well-placed charge could drag them all into the army. No. Oh god, those those Stalkers just getting blasted. I love it. And Tasia with the siege tank spider mine push, and the Vultures, of course, backing it up. Classic trying to break out. But the siege tanks are just reinforcing. The Storm hits spider mines. I didn't know that, for sure. I guess it makes sense. Yeah, they're not a building, so... Oh, wow. Just punishing. Tasia actually has 1-1, and he's won the game as well. Wow. Classic not putting together the army he needed. Too deep and too greedily. Building that 3rd base and getting too high of a probe count. Tasia just pounding the point home with those siege tanks. I love it. I'm really hoping the SE Evo videos do well enough to keep making them. We don't get a ton of highlight games from it. There's a lot of cheeses that just immediately end the game like 5 minutes. But that's true for regular SC2 as well. But I'm looking forward to more. So, whether you enjoyed Rogue, taking advantage of Cure, or Tasia turning it around against Classic. Also, welcome back, Tasia. And I am heartily amused that Classic is also one of the best SC Evo players. They trade off who's playing the Brood War race. But, either way, hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did. At least close. Hopefully it made your day a little bit better. Thank you for 1,700. Well, we're going to break the 4th wall just a bit. It's not 1,700 videos. You could verify that by just checking the channel. About 700 videos ago, very approximately, I said, what if we get 1,000 likes? Because I'm like, we need to get engagement. Okay, that's what YouTube said. You got to get people engaged by smashing that like button. And then I said, what if we did one more? And, well, about 2 years later, here we are. Yada, yada, yada. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy. If you got the means and motivation, be awesome. Check out Patreon, YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. So good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. I hope I made your day just a little bit better. Thank you for watching. Stay chill. Jimmy!